Swifters of safety, it's Prof G, and you might have noticed that after our last lesson, our app crashes if you try to add a new spot. Well, this is because we're trying to refer to photos with an ID that doesn't exist. But the fix is easy. Let me show you what's going on. In the previous lesson, we added photos to documents that we'd already saved, and that worked fine. So if we go to the document for Pito's Pizza, for example, we see all of the photos of these delicious menu items. But if we return to the list view and click plus to add a new spot, blam! We crash gloriously. What gives? Well, if I click the error line, it says invalid path spot / photos. That / should have something in between, the ID of a record. And while we see this in the error statement above, if you want, you can go down to the debugger. After the LLDB prompt, you can enter p space, and we'll print the value self.configuration.path. And when we press return, we see the same thing. The path is spots / photos. Oh yeah, when we enter a new spot, we haven't created a spot ID. Firebase creates the ID automatically, but only when we save the value. So the / means we've got an empty string in where the ID should be. We don't have an ID yet. So now let's see where this problem shows up in our code. Now the code that shows up when the bug was hit isn't very helpful. It's actually deep inside Firebase code that we downloaded with Swift Package Manager. See up here it says Firebase Query Observable. We shouldn't mess with that. But here's the issue. If we navigate to SpotDetailView, we can see this task modifier, which runs when the view first loads, tries to set FS photos to spots / string interp spot ID / photos. But if this is a new spot, that string interp doesn't have anything inside of it. It shows up as the empty string. We try to access a document with an invalid path and we crash. Well, the solution is fairly simple. All we need to do is to precede this statement with a guard let that checks to see if we have a valid ID. So guard let ID equals spot.id else curlies. So if we have a valid spot ID, the guard will let us through. And it's now okay to access spots, ID, photos. It's not going to crash. Otherwise, we'll return. And we can print out a statement above the return that says new record - has no ID. Now, this isn't an error, but we'll see this message in the console every time we create a new spot. It's not necessary. If you don't want to put it in there, you don't need to. But there is one more thing that we need to do. If we're adding a new spot, remember we get an alert that shows up that asks us if we want to save a record before continuing. And we do that because when we add our photo, we need to refer to an ID of a saved document. Now I could leave this code in here with a string interp with nil coalescing, but I've now got an ID, and the guard let would never let me through here if I wasn't able to create the ID property. ID will never have nil. So I just put the ID in between this string interp. This works fine, and we'll actually be able to save images, but they're not going to show up in this view because we haven't properly accessed our photos yet. In the task area, we skip FS photos if we're creating a new record. We wouldn't have passed this guard here. But the fix is fairly simple. We want to head to our alert code inside the save button action, and after the guard statement, which lets us through if we've correctly saved a spot and we get an ID back, we can simply say, and I'll do this under the print statement, $FS photos dot path equals the string spots / string interp with ID inside / photos. So now that we've saved our spot, we have an ID, and we can use that to load up any photos that we've got, including the photo we just saved. That's it. Errors fixed. Let's build and run. Hammer time. No errors. And when we click on plus, no problem, no crash this time. So I'm going to add Neptune Oyster House, which is in the north end. I'll click to add a photo, and we get this alert up here, which says cannot add a photo until you save a spot. So we'll click on save. At this point, we've saved this record, so our spot, Neptune Oyster House, has a valid ID. It is now a document. So we can find and select a photo of oysters. Loves me them bivalves. Click on the save button, and we see the photo shows up. Nice. We've saved, we're in the list view, we can click back on Neptune Oyster House, we see those bivalves, we can go back, click on Pinots, we see all of Pinots. The error is indeed fixed. We're ready to continue the big learning in our next lesson. Hack on, you debugging dynamo.